Wow, an entire football stadium full of formerly disenfranchised comic book fans is cheering right now, and they should be. Welcome to Comic Artist Pro Secrets. My name is Ethan Van Sciver. I am a comic book artist with 25 years experience in this business. I have been privileged to draw in the last 20 years some of the biggest characters ever. I have drawn the X-Men, Wolverine, Flash, Green Lantern, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. I've done it all. And now I'm fortunate enough to get to launch my own character, Cyberfrog, relaunch him. He was around in the 1990s. He's had comic books before, but bringing him back in 2018 is quite a thing, apparently, because he is now the highest record-breaking crowdfunded comic book of all time. He has raised close to $250,000, and of course that is down to you guys, my beautiful, wonderful subscriber base, my fan base. Thank you guys so much for making this a big success. This is absolutely extraordinary, and it is shaking the comic book industry to its very foundations, and they are angry, scared, worried, all of those things. I don't know what to say. We're going to still go ahead. We're going to still do our Cyberfrog book. We're going to draw frogs and salamanders and make a lot of people happy. And yet, on the other side of the spectrum of this thing that's called Comicsgate, before we get into that, what is Comicsgate? Comicsgate is a group of disenfranchised fans, people who used to buy comic books a lot. I mean, back in the 1990s, a comic book would sell 500, 600, 700,000 copies. Just a regular comic book. But over the years, with the incursion of social justice warriors into the ranks of comic book editorial, creative, comics became more and more PC. Less violence, less beautiful, sexy women, more weird lecturing, hectoring, more feminism, more things that don't belong in superhero comics, frankly. More of this kind of far left-wing badgering that people just don't want to pay to read. Whether you agree with it or not, nobody wants to shell out $4 to hear what some blue hair has to say about women's rights. They just don't want to pay for it. They get it for free. They just flip on MSNBC, and you can have that coming out of your eyeballs. Comic books should be something different. They should be escapism. They should be fun, sexy, violent, funny, all of those things. They should be something that, if you were a kid, your mom wouldn't be thrilled to see you reading. You'd have to read them under your blankets with a flashlight. Remember that, being a little kid, having those horror comics, and just being like, hey, you know, these are, well, maybe you weren't, I don't know, you probably didn't live in the 1950s, neither did I. But anyway, comics were always that way. They were transgressive, they were fun, and yeah, they pushed the boundaries, they pushed the limits. Nowadays, they are dull. They're sad. They're ugly. They're weird, and they're creepy and try to be funny when they're not funny at all. And that is the opposite side of the Comicsgate movement. We are leading a movement to kind of kick these social justice warriors out of comics, or at least prove that comic books do better when they are not infiltrated by far left-wing politics. So far, so good. Diversity in Comics, a YouTube channel that is run by Richard Meyer, who has done a comic book or two in his past, has come back and launched a crowdfunded comic book called Jawbreakers. Jawbreakers made $350,000 over the course, just so far, of its run in crowdfunding, in pre-orders, in pre-sales, 350,000 copies. By contrast, Batman right now, which is usually the highest selling and most steady comic book available on the mainstream market, is selling about 102,000 copies, 102,000. A trade paperback with Batman might sell 10,000, 12,000 copies. It ain't making $350,000 in profit. It's just not. And for an independent creator and an independent book to come out here and rock the comic book industry this way is a big deal. Now, I followed up. I actually spoke to him. I said, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first? We plan to do this together. He said he wanted to go first. I'm going second. I am just 3 weeks into my campaign. We have raised $323,000. Let me check this real quick. $323,000. That is pretty substantial. We are ahead of him. We're ahead of that book because our campaign isn't even over yet. We are scheduled to make close to $500,000 on this book. Now, people are upset. On the other side, of this. The opposite side of Comicsgate, the SJWs, they're taking notice, they're taking names, they're watching the people who are in support of this movement to make comic books great again, and they are angry and vengeful. There's a comic book shop, I believe, in Washington State, and they announced that they would not be stocking or carrying any Jawbreakers books. It doesn't really matter if you want it, if you ask for it, you're not going to get it. They decided that it was counter to their clientele's interests. They're called Magic Mirror Comics, or they were, and indeed. They decided that they would take that upon themselves to not do that, to boycott this comic book, which in and of itself is okay. They took it a step too far when another YouTuber named Real Comic Book Gamer, also known as Dylan, who lives in that area and buys his comics there every month, commented in support of Jawbreakers on a Twitter thread. They took note of him, and when he came in to purchase his books the next week, they threw him out and they refused his service. Nothing like this has ever happened in comics before that I know of. I have never heard of a customer, because of his politics, being declined at the cash register to buy his comic books that he always buys. I've never heard of that before. That is deep water that we're in right now. This is a new world. This is a brand new world. And that is unfortunate and sad. It's also perhaps interesting to note that just last week they announced that they're going out of business. Now, I do not cheer comic book stores going out of business at all. This is the last thing that we need. We do not need comic book stores going out of business, and yet 50 comic book stores in the last year have had to close their doors because the product that is being sent to them is no longer sellable. People don't want it. People are not coming in their doors to buy the fun comic books that they remembered from their youth. This hobby has changed to the degree now that comic books are no longer about fun. They're about preaching social justice. You have to pretend to like them. You have to pretend to like these comic books, or else you're going to be called names by these people. This is just not something that people want to spend their money on. I don't know how much more clear fans can make this to publishers, to creators. This is fine that you feel this way. This is fine that you want to make these comics. This is fine. It's art. You're allowed to do that. But when your comic book store has to close its doors because the comic books that you are making for them to sell are no longer sellable, are not making money, you are causing trouble. You're causing trouble. You can do whatever you want as a creator. You're welcome. You are more than welcome to create social justice comics. However, you are not as welcome to infiltrate books like Spider-Man or Superman or Wonder Woman or any of these other big books, X-Men, and use them as a way to tell your stories, as a way to send out your ideology, your propaganda. These comics are not your vehicle to express your hate. They're not. They never were. And they never were. And because that's what they're becoming, comic book stores are closing down. Most comic book stores, I think of the 50 that, and there are probably way more, that number is old, that number is from February of this year. Most of those stores are closing down because people are no longer coming in. They are not interested in buying social justice warrior comics. They're not interested. Okay, and you can't argue with that. It's just not something that you can argue with. The customer is always right. Either the customer is paying for these comic books or they are not, and manifestly they are not. Sales are declining. Every single month, sales are sinking. People have to do extraordinary things to get comic books to sell in decent numbers anymore. 50 variant covers. We have to land at a big, hey, this is Spider-Man number 800. It's a big deal. All right, you'll get some people in there to buy the 800th issue of Spider-Man. Will you keep them? Let's see how 801 sells. This is tragic. Can't be tolerated anymore. Can't be tolerated. However, there is one comic book store that did deserve to go out of business, and it's this one. This one should have gone out of business. Apparently, they went out of business because they were behind paying their rent. I don't know that that's true. That is the rumor. But they had to close down for that reason. But they should have gone out of business because they were not serving their community anymore. Not only, were they purchasing comics that nobody wants to buy. That's not their fault. But they were refusing money at the cash register because of politics. Intolerable. Money is green. I don't want to be judged by some monster behind the register when I show up with money to buy my comic books. I don't want to be judged by them. I want to pay for my comics and leave. I don't want a moment. I don't want an experience. I don't want to have a confrontation with anyone behind the register. Close your mouth, take my money, get me out of here. This comic book store did deserve to go out of business. And here we have Heather Antos. Listen, Heather Antos is a pivotal figure in Comicsgate. Heather Antos is what Zoe Quinn might have been to Gamergate. Heather Antos is what Kelly Marie Tran is to Star Wars Gate. She is this figure, a female figure who has been harassed because she's a woman. I don't know. There are reasons. There are lots of... The milkshake incident is a whole separate situation, which I would love to talk about at another time. She has lost her job at Marvel as assistant editor of the Star Wars books, thank God. She is someone who thought Rose Tico was a better figure, better character than Boba Fett. Get out of here. But she's a nice person. We have spoken in private. Very, very nice, very cordial. She was invited to come on the show, talk. She declined in a very kind way. So I have no problem, no personal issues with Heather Antos. But this tweet here, that the feels when real comic fans, quote unquote, are celebrating a comic shop closing. Yeah. And this is Veronica Mars here. I guess she's given us the finger or something like that. Okay. Well, Heather, this comic shop declined to take money from a patron who was just trying to buy their comic books. I don't care. I honestly couldn't give one damn what the person behind the cash register of any establishment that I'm going to thinks about me or my politics or what they personally think, what they believe. I don't care what comic books they read, what comic books they don't read. I don't care. And I don't want them to care about me in a similar way. They should care about taking my money, making sure that they have the stock that I am interested in paying them for in order that their store stay open. And this store decided to become something else. They decided to become some kind of political advocate, and they went out of business, and they should have gone out of business. Ironically, the person who sent me this screenshot here, these are two tweets on top of each other. If you go into your Twitter, I guess there are things that say, in case you might be interested or something like that. I mean, we see what you follow. Are you interested in this? Comic book writers, this is tweets from comic book writers and editors. God only knows why anybody would want to know what these people have to think, have to say, what they believe. But yeah, you might care that Heather Antos wants to flip you off because people are celebrating that a bigoted and prejudiced comic shop received karma so very quickly. That is fun. And on the other hand, right beneath Heather, he found this kind of amusing, these two tweets together. We have another pivotal figure of Comicsgate, yours truly, Ethan Van Sciver. This was from yesterday, $320,000 and 5,000 backers. We are the biggest crowdfunded comic book in history. Of course we are. Our community of positive fandom is the best. And I think I had a little ad saying, go ahead and support Cyberfrog, Blood Honey. I am asking for your patronage. I don't care what you believe. That is of no concern to me. I will never turn you down. Please buy my comic book. How hard is that? How hard of an attitude is that to adopt? How difficult is that? Apparently it's very, very difficult for some people in comics. They've forgotten that comic books is an industry. We are here to make money. We are here to create entertainment, which is sellable in order to make money. Lots of money if possible. These people think it's a club. These people think this is some kind of exclusive club that they can throw people out of. Who are these people? Who are these weirdos? Why are they here? Why are they here? Why are these people here making judgments like this? Why do they find themselves in positions where they can get between you and the comic book? Why? How did this happen? Welcome to Comicsgate. And welcome to the Fandom Menace. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this community, for taking the time to watch my videos, to listen to what I have to say. Thanks for being so kind as to hit a thumbs up. If you like this video, thanks for being doubly so kind to subscribe to my channel. Be a part of this community. Click that bell notification so that you'll always get notifications whenever I have a new video up, whenever I'm doing a live stream. You want to be there. You want to be a part of this. It's a lot of fun. And then extra thanks to people who go so far, the super fans, and you're seeing their names go up the side of the screen here. Thank you guys for donating and backing my Patreon, for buying t-shirts, hats, posters. Thank you for purchasing Cyberfrog Blood Honey. Thank you dearly from the bottom of my heart for that. And thank you for attending the live streams and offering super chats. You guys are a fantastic audience, a fantastic group of people, a fantastic group of customers, and I'll never forget you or that. Thank you. Show your friends you support independent comics while showing the world who you back in the fight against the swarm with the brand new Cyberfrog t-shirt from Crypto Fashion and Comic Artist Pro Secret. Sizes come in small to 5XL, and take your choice of colors between navy blue, white, and black. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and order the Fandom Menace, Go Get Daddy's Belt, Tico, and Soilo t-shirts as well. Link is below in the description. You're gonna look great. People love these shirts. They fit wonderfully. Thank you very much. Hello potential Indiegogo backers, hello friends, my name is Ethan Van Sciver. I'm a comic book creator who worked for 20 years for Marvel and DC Comics on books like Green Lantern, Flash, Superman, Batman, and X-Men, but before that, I had a comic book called Cyberfrog. Now Cyberfrog lasted from 1993 to 1998, and then it stopped when I went to go work for DC Comics. Now I want to tell the story of where Cyberfrog has been for the last 20 years. I want to write, pencil, ink a book called Cyberfrog Blood Honey that tells the story of gigantic alien hornets that come to Earth and conquer it, sending Cyberfrog into deep hibernation, where he emerges now in the year 2018 into a completely alternate reality, a new world where these hornets have taken over, devastated humanity, using human skin to make gigantic wasp hives, and harvesting human blood to make honey to feed their young. Very few humans still exist, but it's up to Cyberfrog to save what's left of humanity and turn back the damage that's been done by these wasps with his brother Salamandroid and his friend Heather Swain. I want you to help me do this. We're going to get colors by Kyle Ritter. He's a fantastic colorist, and he's going to make this book sing. I'd like this to be a 48-page one-shot prestige format, part 1 of 4. So I'm asking you to help me launch the very first Cyberfrog Blood Honey epic graphic novel. Are you in? Will you help me? I hope so. Let's get this frog jumping again.